She clinked her glass twice. Not the gentle kind of clink to hush a room. The sharp kind, like she wanted to wake people up. Laughter died. Forks froze midair. Someone whispered, "She's doing it now?" She stood up, cheeks flushed, one heel already off. I noticed that first, one heel off. Like she'd been dancing too hard, or running, or something else. Then she smiled. That fake kind of smile she used to flash me when I asked if everything was okay, and it wasn't. Her dress caught a beam of light. Glowing like a spotlight found her guilty. "I wasn't planning to speak," she said, holding the mic like it burned. "But, I can't sit here and pretend." I already knew. Somewhere in my spine, I already knew. But I sat anyway, like a fool who wants to be wrong. Then she turned her head. Not to me. To the man in the third row. Green tie, tan blazer, elbows on knees like he was at a funeral. And she said, "You were always it for me. Even when I said yes to someone else." The glass fell. It didn't break. Neither did I. Not right away. I stood. Walked. I don't remember how far. Maybe I went outside. Maybe I didn't. The world felt like soup. Thick, tasteless, suffocating. No one stopped me. No one called after me. Not even her. I think the clapping started behind me. Nervous clapping. The kind people do when they're too afraid to stand still. I didn't cry. Not until I heard her voice again. Not from the mic, from the hallway. "Ira, wait, please." Too late. She can knock all night. I'm not opening that door. Not this time. I didn't mean to walk into the wine cellar. I thought it was an exit. I pulled the wrong door, stumbled down 2 stone steps, and there I was, surrounded by dusty bottles, stale air, and the hum of a refrigerator that sounded too calm for what had just happened. I leaned against a rack of Merlot and tried to slow my breathing, but my body had already made its decision. I was in shock. The kind of shock that's quiet, that presses against your ears until everything else sounds underwater. I thought about the seating chart, the hours we spent arranging names and avoiding drama. I thought about how she insisted on inviting him. He's a part of my past, not my present. "Ira, don't be jealous." She used to say my name like it was delicate, like it might crack if she wasn't gentle with it. But up there, in front of everyone, when she said, "You were always it for me," to someone who wasn't me, it wasn't just the words that broke me. It was the way she said them. Her voice cracked around his name. Mine was never fragile on her tongue. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my legs to go pins and needles. Long enough for someone to open the door, start to come in, and stop cold when they saw me. It was the bartender. His name tag said Leo. He gave me this half nod, the kind men give when they're not sure if you've been crying and don't want to embarrass you. He slowly closed the door again without a word. I replayed everything. The way her voice trembled during the speech, how she never looked at me once, how her mother gasped like she'd just witnessed a car crash. I even remembered how her cousin whispered, "Jesus Christ," under his breath. Not dramatic, just stunned. She didn't expect me to leave. I know that now. She thought I'd sit there, eat cake, pretend to be okay, smile for the photos, hold her hand on the dance floor while she whispered apologies I'd never really believe. But here's what she didn't expect. I listened. I believed her. When she said he was her true love, I didn't try to rewrite it in my head. I didn't rationalize it. I didn't call it a slip. I heard her. Really heard her. Maybe for the first time in months. She had been dropping hints. I just didn't want to see them. I stood up. My knees buckled for half a second, but I caught myself. I went back up the steps, walked through the side hallway toward the lobby. And there she was. No bouquet. No veil. No smile. Just her in that stupid, overpriced dress, barefoot now, mascara sliding down both cheeks, looking at me like she was still trying to figure out how this all turned into a disaster. "Ira," she said, so softly it sounded like guilt. But it wasn't my name anymore. Not the way she used to say it. Not the way I needed it to sound. So I walked right past her. I pushed open the main doors and stepped into the wind without looking back. Let her cry at the door. She chose the window. I didn't go home. That would have been too easy. Too normal. I ended up in the parking lot behind a 24-hour diner, just sitting in my car with the radio off, windows fogged, and a half-eaten pack of gum in my lap. I kept turning the key in the ignition, then switching it off again. Over and over. Like if I timed it right, maybe I could rewind time. Maybe I could stop her from standing up, from saying it, from meaning it. I finally drove back to the lodge around 2:30 in the morning. Not because I wanted to, but because my phone was dead, and my wallet was still in the wedding suite. My name was still technically on the guest list, right? My room, my things, my wedding. I half expected the lock to reject my key card, but it didn't. The little light blinked green, just like that, like nothing had happened. The first thing I noticed when I stepped inside was the smell. Cologne, not mine. Something stronger, heavier, almost theatrical. Then I saw it, a tan jacket, draped over the chair in the corner. Expensive looking, slightly wrinkled, and way too familiar. It was his. Daniel's. I stood there just, frozen, looking at it like it was radioactive. My brain spun through every possible explanation except the obvious one. Maybe he stopped in to use the bathroom. Maybe she gave it to him when he was cold. Maybe it's not his at all, and I'm just spiraling. Maybe. The closet door creaked behind me. I didn't imagine it. But no one was there. Just the empty hanger that used to hold her rehearsal dress and the slippers her sister gifted her in the morning. I walked slowly to the dresser, sat down on the bed, opened the drawer. Inside was a note. Not addressed to me. Not handwritten. Just a printed page with 3 lines. If you read this, it's too late. Please don't hate me. You were always too kind. That was it. No name. No explanation. No signature. Just that. Folded once. I don't even know if it was meant for me or for him. I sat there for 10, maybe 15 minutes, just holding the paper. My mouth dry, my heartbeat in my ears. My own wedding ring. Never even worn. Still in the box on the nightstand beside me. And that's when it hit me. She hadn't messed up during the toast. She hadn't lost control or panicked under pressure. This wasn't some emotional accident. No, that speech was her exit plan. Her confession. And this note, it was the pillow she left behind to soften the blow. She wanted me to leave. And worse, she wanted him to stay. I didn't sleep that night. I lay fully dressed on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling fan. It creaked every 7 seconds. I timed it. That's how far gone I was. 1 spin creak. 2 spins creak. Meanwhile, her dress, the one she swore took 6 fittings, was hanging in the bathroom, half zipped, half drenched in red wine from the reception. It looked like it had been flung against the wall. Not placed. Not hung. Like something had happened in there. And maybe it had. Around 4:12 a.m., her phone lit up on the dresser. She'd left it behind. Of course she did. She was probably halfway to God knows where, crying into Daniel's jacket while he kissed the top of her head and told her she was so brave. But the name on the screen wasn't his. It was just saved as G. I shouldn't have done it. I know that. But at that point, everything I thought was right had already been set on fire. So I picked it up and swiped. No passcode. That almost hurt more than anything. Like she never imagined I'd even try to unlock it. The call had already gone to voicemail. But she'd missed 2 other calls from G earlier in the night. And one of them had a voicemail notification. I didn't even hesitate. I pressed play. The voice was male. Calm. Too calm. You didn't follow the script. We had an agreement. That speech was not part of it. You just made this harder for all of us. Click. That was it. I listened to it 5 more times. Same words. Same dead cold tone. Not Daniel. Not anyone I recognized. But he spoke like this had all been planned. Like her wedding wasn't a wedding, it was a show. I scrolled through her messages with G. Most were deleted. 1 thread remained. Just a single text. Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Pack light. Take the back road. No other context. Nothing after that. I sat there for another hour, heart pounding like I'd just uncovered something I wasn't supposed to see. This wasn't just about love or betrayal. It felt orchestrated, rehearsed. The speech, the note, the missing shoes, the ice cream truck. Who the hell was G? And what exactly was Sunday at 9:30 a.m.? I took photos of everything. The note, the voicemail screen, the text, and sent them to myself. Then I powered off her phone and shoved it into my duffel bag with the cufflinks I never wore and the cologne she picked out for me last Christmas. And as I zipped it shut, I felt it. Not sadness. Not even rage. I felt played. This wasn't a woman falling back in love with an ex. This wasn't confusion or nerves or fear of commitment. This was a plan. And I had just started peeling back the first layer of it. By the time the sun came up, I had made 3 decisions. First, I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. She wanted a scene, a confrontation, a dramatic explosion so she could twist it into victimhood. I wasn't going to give her that. Second, I was going to find out who G was. No guessing. No assumptions. I needed facts. And third, I was going to play dumb until I had them all. Checkout was at 11. Most guests were still asleep or already gone. Ghosts in rented suits, pastel dresses, disposable camera smiles. I packed my things in silence, barely glancing at the empty side of the bed. That space didn't belong to her anymore. I ran into her sister, Fallon, in the lobby. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a hoodie that said Bride Tribe in glitter. She looked like she hadn't slept either, or like she had slept through a panic attack. When she saw me, her face twitched. A flicker of guilt? Or pity? I couldn't tell. Ira, she started, but trailed off. I didn't answer. I just tilted my head slightly like, well? She rubbed her temples. Look, I don't know what she was thinking. I didn't know she was gonna, say that in front of everyone. In front of Daniel? I asked. Casual. Careful. Fishing. Fallon flinched. God, don't say his name. He shouldn't have even been there. She swore it was just a closure thing. Closure? She told me it would be quiet. A letter or something. Not whatever that toast was. A letter. That word rang louder than it should have. She kept talking, almost like she couldn't stop herself now. She wasn't supposed to say anything. G told her to stay subtle. I told her it was too risky, but I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just asked one question. Who's G? That broke her. Just for a second. Her mouth parted, but no sound came. Then she dropped her eyes and laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because she realized she had said too much. You don't know? She whispered. Would I be asking if I did? She shook her head, stepping back. I shouldn't be talking to you. Then why are you still standing here? She turned on her heel and walked away fast, nearly tripping on her heels. I didn't call after her. I didn't need to. I had what I needed. Confirmation that G was real, G was involved, and G was giving instructions. And now? Fallon knew I was looking, which meant Meryl would know soon too. Fine. Let them feel watched for once. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the hotel through the windshield, engine off. I pulled out my phone and opened the voicemail from G again. I played it through a Bluetooth speaker this time, letting the voice fill the space around me. Not just any voice. There was something in the rhythm. The way he spoke like this had all happened before, like he had experience ending things for people. And then something hit me, something subtle I hadn't noticed in the quiet panic of the night. There was background noise. Faint, but clear. A beep. Then another. A mechanical hum. Like a printer? A copy machine? A freaking office. Not a lover's whisper in a motel room. Not a man pacing in jealousy or rage. Someone sitting calmly in a workspace. I turned off the speaker, rolled down the window, and just breathed for a second. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a script. And someone was pulling the strings. I spent the next day pretending to move on. Drove back to my apartment. Took the ring box and dropped it in the back of a drawer. Answered a few sympathy texts with vague thumbs-up emojis. Let Meryl's dozens of missed calls pile up. I didn't block her. Not yet. If she thought she could reach me, she might slip. Panic makes people careless. And I needed careless. But my mind was already fixated on something else. That sound. The background beep in the voicemail from G. It hadn't let go of me since I noticed it. I spent hours scrubbing the audio on editing software I barely knew how to use. Isolating. Slowing. Looping. And when I finally heard it clearly, I froze. It was a Ricoh 4500 commercial copier. Model from 2019. I used to fix those back when I worked maintenance for the state education offices. They had one on the 3rd floor, next to an unused cubicle with bad fluorescent lighting and a spider web no one ever cleaned. That specific chirp when a copy finished and the tray reset. I knew it. I knew it. Which meant whoever left that voicemail wasn't in hiding. He wasn't a jealous ex or some guy she met at a bar. He was in an office. And if my memory was right, maybe even a government office. I didn't say any of this out loud. I didn't even write it down. I just grabbed a hoodie, filled a thermos with old gas station coffee, and drove 2 hours to Montville, where I used to work before I met Meryl. Where that same copier still sat, probably covered in dust, in an office no one visited unless something broke. I had no clearance anymore. No badge. I was banking on one thing. That Cheryl, the night guard, still worked the late shift and still owed me for fixing her car's alternator on a weekend back in 2021. She did. And she let me in without a word. 3rd floor. Fluorescents still flickering. Same dead air. Same smell of paper and too much carpet glue. The Rico was right where I remembered it. I stood in front of it for a moment, not because I needed to, but because I was stalling. The room felt different now, like someone had used it recently. Then I noticed something taped under the edge of the printer's paper tray. Not hidden well, like it was meant to be found by someone specific. A folded envelope. No name. I opened it. Inside, 3 things. A blank USB stick, a key, and a printed line that simply said, "Before you blame her, maybe ask who else said yes." I stood there, my heart slamming so hard I could hear it in my teeth. Who else said yes? Yes to what? What the hell had I agreed to, without knowing? Because someone had planned this. And maybe Meryl wasn't the architect. Maybe she was just another pawn, just like me. I left the building quickly, but calmly. Too many security cameras. Too many questions I couldn't answer. Back in my car, I plugged the USB into an old work laptop. No password. No encryption. Just a single folder labeled rehearsals. And when I opened it, there she was. Meryl, sitting in a different wedding dress. In a different room. Reading that same speech. Over and over. To a man I'd never seen before. Not Daniel. Not G. Just a stranger with a clipboard. Giving her notes. Like a director. I don't remember hitting play. I just remember the video starting. Meryl sat in front of a fake archway made of silk flowers, the kind you'd find in a discount wedding supply store. Her makeup was too clean, too flawless, like she'd been retouched. Her hands rested in her lap, and she looked calm. Too calm. The way an actress looks before a take, right after someone yells quiet on set. The man across from her wore a light gray sweater and no wedding ring. He didn't look like a director. He looked like an insurance agent. Bland, pleasant, forgettable. He held a clipboard in one hand, a pen in the other. Every few minutes, he nodded or clicked the pen without writing anything down. And that's when I noticed something bone-deep wrong. Meryl wasn't practicing the speech. She was delivering it, to him. And each time she reached the part, to the one who's always had my heart, she paused. Not like she forgot the line. Like she was waiting. For permission. Again, the man would say, and she'd do it again. Each time slightly different. One take softer, one more emotional, one with a fake tear drop timed perfectly for the line. And after the 5th run-through, she exhaled and asked, "Do you think he'll believe it?" That's when the man finally spoke more than one word. "He has to," he said. "It doesn't work if he doesn't believe it." She looked down. "I'm not sure I can hold it together." "You'll hold," he said. "Because you agreed. Because he already did, too." And then, like a detonation in my ears, he said my name. Ira needs to feel abandoned, not attacked. That was the condition. I slammed the laptop closed like it had burned me. My ears were ringing. I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was falling through something that didn't have a bottom. What condition? Who agreed? Me? When? To what? I paced in my apartment for what felt like an hour, but was probably 20 minutes. My heart didn't slow once. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't stop replaying the way she said that line in 5 different tones, like a commercial jingle. Like grief was just another marketing pitch. I opened the laptop again. Rewatched the video from the beginning, this time noting the time code. It was filmed 3 weeks before the wedding. Not 2 days. Not last minute. 3 weeks. And there were 7 other videos. Each in different outfits. Each with different versions of the toast. And in one of them, the 4th, she wasn't talking about Daniel. She was talking about someone named Clark. In another, she ends the toast by walking over and hugging a woman. In a third, she doesn't even leave me. She kisses me at the end. Everyone claps. It's a beautiful moment. The man with the clipboard nods and says, "That one will work too, but it's less efficient." Less efficient? Efficient for what? I clicked through file names, trying to find context. One folder called Simulated Emotional Impact, IRA_G01, was password protected. Another folder was labeled Rejected Narratives. And in that folder, I found something I never expected, a PDF titled Cycle 23 Debrief, Asset Reactivity Notes. My hands shook as I opened it. And what I read didn't just disturb me. It obliterated any version of reality I thought I was still holding on to. Subject IRA_G01 displayed strong emotional loyalty during Phase 1, followed by high instability during Phase 2. Predictive tolerance surpassed expectations, indicating ideal variables for Phase 3 stress modeling. Asset M, 34, Meryl, demonstrated reliable improvisation within approved emotional trigger parameters. Recommendation: consider IRA_G01 for extended loops. Monitor for narrative bleed. Extended loops. Narrative bleed. Variables. Subject. Asset. This wasn't about love, or heartbreak, or even manipulation. This was a test, and I was the test subject. I sat there in the dark, laptop still glowing, as a single thought finally, fully bloomed. This wedding wasn't real. Not the way I thought. Not the way anyone thinks a wedding should be. It was a setup, a structure, a loop. And the worst part? This might not even be the first time I've lived through it. The sun came up without warning. I hadn't noticed the time. I was still sitting there, surrounded by files that read like scripts, recordings that mimicked life, and folders labeled outcomes, like this had all been part of a boardroom brainstorm. But something strange happened as that early light poured in through the blinds. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I felt calm. Not because I understood everything. I didn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But for the first time in what felt like years, I could see the lines, the edges, the hands behind the curtain. And that made all the difference. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't weak. And I wasn't done. They wanted heartbreak. They got it. They wanted confusion. Delivered. They thought I'd break like glass. Let them find out what happens when someone bends instead. I copied everything. The videos, the PDFs, the voice recordings. Then I disconnected the laptop from the internet, snapped the USB in half, and threw the broken pieces into different dumpsters across 3 towns. I wasn't about to play their game anymore. Not on their rules. Not with their toys. I took a week off work. Told people I got food poisoning at the wedding, which wasn't that far off, in a way. I hiked trails I'd never been on. Ate at diners with plastic menus and no Wi-Fi. Smiled at strangers. Talked to waitresses. Laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in what felt like forever. And then I wrote a letter. To Meryl. But not to blame her. I don't know what role she really played. Maybe she was an actress. Maybe she was lost too. Maybe she was just another piece in something bigger than either of us. But she was a part of it. And she did go along with it. That much I can't forget. But I told her this. I hope you find a version of yourself that isn't built for someone else's experiment. I hope we both do. Then I left the letter in a library book we once read together. She'll find it if she's meant to. As for G, and the clipboard man and whoever else was behind the curtain, I don't need revenge. I don't need answers. I just need distance. And I have that now. I moved cities 2 months ago. New job. New apartment. New coffee shop that already knows my order. I met someone at a bookstore last week. She has a chipped tooth and the loudest laugh I've ever heard. I don't know if it's real, but I feel real with her. And that's enough. So, if you're reading this, if you were like me, if you've ever had your reality pulled apart and rebuilt by people who don't deserve you, you're not broken, you're not crazy, and you're not alone. Some of us don't escape the maze by running. Some of us outgrow it, and we never look back.